I concur completely with Dr. Reddy said. I mean, right now, I think it's limited only by a lot of fear and then a lot of validation. So when I look at artificial intelligence being, I don't think it's hype any longer. I think, over the past 15 to 20 years, we've had a kind of a slow progression as people were slow to adopt, small things, wearable devices, protocolization of treatments and diagnostics. But as we've seen its effectiveness, being able to look back and study the results, now people are understanding the benefit of using data. And to me, artificial intelligence, it just uses the power of computing to look at even larger sets of data faster. And so I think of it in three ways. I think of its biggest impact will be in the monitoring spaces where it has been. That's being able to monitor again, patients remotely, whether, it's things like Fitbits, Apple Watches, or Android watches, remote or Bluetooth or Wi-Fi powered, heart rate sensors and blood pressure sensors, digital scales to get the very basics of information. But it's also been used in terms of electronic health records, being able to take large amounts of subjective data and put it into objective forms just to get the actual data in. So the monitoring portion, I think the two big parts that are really kind of coming along right now in the pipeline are changing from monitoring to diagnostics. So taking that data and actually coming up with an accurate assessment. So, when we're trying to get the right diagnosis, you mentioned earlier, looking at, for instance, subjective data, like I've lost my smell, my taste, how much of that volume correlates to the predictive capacity of this being a particular disease state and with what level of accuracy, in other words, specificity and sensitivity. So I think that's crucial because we can look at what people say and actually predict the correct diagnosis or series of diagnoses. In doing that in a much faster way, also much more cost efficient, but also reaching larger groups of people because it doesn't require coming into a hospital center. So whether an emergency department or a doctor's office, for those who may have difficulty with transportation or cost or disability, it really allows to get accurate, fast diagnosis cheaply. And then I think the third part of that is, going from monitoring to diagnostics to treatment. And so really being able to go down to, once we're getting a diagnosis, what is the right treatment? And we can do that not only just on looking backward at other population data, but really even getting to the point where we're predictive now. We're predictive based on your blood type, your genetics, where you live, the way things are changing in an area. So when I'm trying to look at, 5 million or 50 million examples of a particular diagnosis, for instance, COVID-19, and what are the response to treatment patterns in this particular geographic area or in this particular subsegment of patients, whether based on age, gender, race, underlying health conditions, other medications, their ability to actually absorb a medication. I think artificial intelligence has an incredible role in being able to do that. I think it has an ability to shift the cost structure of how we provide care from being mostly inpatient to really, right now it's all inpatient. There's very little outpatient care, very little preventative medicine, to being able to kind of even out those scales. So the hospitalizations, what we refer to those who fail appropriate outpatient therapy, but most likely had an accurate diagnosis in a timely fashion. And so it should also reduce the care. So I think it's definitely here to stay. As Dr. said, it's definitely not going away. I think we'll see more of a change from the consumer space, although consumers are hungry for getting more data as well, mostly into a more, certified medical space where we're able to really treat patients either, again, at home in pop-up centers, but in a much smaller footprint that makes it cheaper and easier. But I think the key is really going to be going from monitoring to diagnosis, and from diagnosis to treatment. I think the diagnosis to treatment is really when we'll see the largest economic impact on, patients everywhere, particularly those who have difficulty getting in or have hesitancy to going in to see a physician.